Hello and welcome to English Spark Official. I'm Zayden, joined as always by Alara.
Hey everyone! We're so excited about today's topic.
So, imagine putting 1,000 hours into learning a highly complex skill. Like you spend years studying the manuals, you memorize all the schematics, you pass every single written test with flying colors.
Right.
And then the day finally arrives for you to step out of that, sterile environment of your study room, and you actually try to apply that skill in the real world.
Oh, I know where this is going.
Yeah, you walk up to someone, you execute everything exactly as it was written on the page, and the person just stares at you with absolute uncomprehending blankness.
It is the worst feeling.
It really is. And, if you're currently navigating the early stages of learning English, perhaps sitting at an A2 level, you don't have to imagine that scenario. You have lived it.
Absolutely lived it.
You felt that incredibly specific dread at a coffee shop or maybe in a team meeting when your perfectly constructed, grammatically flawless sentence is met with a polite, confused blink.
Just the blink. Yeah.
So today we're doing a deep dive into breaking down the uncomfortable truth that your grammar textbook completely hid from you.
It's such a universally frustrating experience. I mean, you walk away from that interaction thinking, well, my vocabulary just wasn't advanced enough, or my verb tense was wrong.
Right. You blame yourself.
Exactly. So you go back home, you open the book, and you try to memorize another 50 words. And this is the crazy part, the failure in that interaction almost never stems from a lack of vocabulary.
Wait, really? Never.
Well, very rarely. The breakdown actually happens because you delivered the right data, but you used the wrong physical mechanics.
Okay, which brings us to the core of what we are unpacking today in this deep dive. We have this really fascinating foundational methodology guide from English Spark Official, and it's titled Pitch and Stress Hacks. Sound like a native speaker.
Yeah, it's a brilliant resource.
It really is. And the mission for our conversation today is to, take these high-level, almost linguistic concepts and translate them into a highly practical, everyday reality for you, the listener.
Because that's what matters, right? The practical application. Exactly.
We are going to strip away all the academic jargon. We're going to use the most universal setting possible, your daily morning routine, as our laboratory to test these ideas.
I love the morning routine idea. It's perfect.
And by the time we finish, you will walk away with a completely different understanding of how to practice speaking. We want to move you from just, memorization to actual human connection.
So to set the baseline here, we really need to look at the explicit objective of this English Spark Official Guide.
Okay, let's do it.
The source material isn't designed for people who just want to pass a written exam. It is entirely built for learners operating in what they call English-speaking environments.
Which is a huge distinction.
It's everything. The ultimate goal, as they explicitly state it, is achieving a natural, human-like conversation. And that specific phrasing, human-like, is doing a lot of heavy lifting.
I mean, it implies that the alternative is sounding non-human. Like an automated voicemail.
Honestly, worse?
Worse.
Yeah, because an automated voicemail system actually attempts to fake natural inflection. If you strip away pitch and stress, if you read an English sentence giving every single syllable the exact same weight, volume, and duration, you are actively working against the way a native speaker's brain is wired to receive information.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the source text explicitly warns against falling into, quote, robotic or repetitive phrasing. When you speak that way, you're basically communicating raw, unfiltered data. And humans just don't process language as raw data.
Right, we aren't computers.
We use rhythm and melody to signal our emotional intent and to, point out the most critical pieces of information in a sentence.
So let's establish exactly what those two mechanical levers are. Because the title of the guide relies on them entirely, right? Pitch and stress.
Yes.
I want to understand why these are the absolute secret sauce to this whole process. But honestly, if I'm at the start of my English journey, like an A2 learner, my instinct is to reject this premise entirely.
Sure, I hear that all the time.
Right. Because if I only know 300 words, focusing on the melody of my voice feels like a massive luxury. Shouldn't I just be spending every single spare second flashcarding nouns and verbs? I mean, if I don't know the word for water, the melody doesn't really matter, does it?
The logic there makes perfect sense on paper. I mean, you need raw materials to build a house. But the reality that the source material focuses on is that vocabulary is only one piece of the puzzle.
Okay.
If you rely solely on dictionary definitions and just ignore the physical delivery, you end up with that robotic output we just mentioned. So let's break down the mechanics.
Yeah, please. Explain pitch and stress to me like I'm 5.
Okay, so pitch is the musicality of your voice. It is the literal frequency, like how high or how low your vocal cords are vibrating. It's the notes on a piano.
Got it. And stress.
Stress is a combination of power and time. It dictates which specific part of a word or which specific word in an entire sentence gets pushed out with more air from your lungs.
So it's louder.
Louder, yes. And you also hold it for just a fraction of a second longer.
Okay, so pitch is the melody, and stress is the rhythm.
That is the foundation, yes. And together, they form the physical heartbeat of English.
It makes me think of baking.
Baking.
Yeah. Learning English vocabulary without mastering pitch and stress is like acquiring the finest, most expensive ingredients for a cake. You have imported chocolate, you have organic flour, fresh eggs.
Sounds delicious so far.
But you don't own an oven.
I see.
You have no concept of heat or time. You can mix those ingredients in a bowl all day long, but without the physical reaction caused by the heat of the oven, you don't have a cake. You just have a bowl of, wet flour.
That is a perfect analogy. And taking that a step further, the native speakers you interact with, like the barista in London or a colleague in New York, they are expecting a baked cake.
Right. They don't want wet flour.
Exactly. Their brains are not accustomed to eating raw ingredients. In English-speaking environments, native listeners rely on pitch and stress on a subconscious level because English is what linguists call a stress-timed language.
Wait, a stress-timed language? What does that mean?
It means native speakers literally compress the less important words in a sentence, like crushing them down, and they leap from one stressed word to the next.
Hold on. Explain that compression. What is actually happening in the listener's brain when that happens?
So, when a native speaker listens to a sentence, they aren't actively translating every single word. Their ear is hunting for the stressed syllables.
Just the stressed ones.
Right. Those stressed words act as anchors. If I say, I am going to the store, the native ear really only cares about going and store.
Because those are the action and the destination.
Yes. The words am, to, and the get physically compressed in the mouth. They become very short, weak sounds.
Like I'm going to the store.
Exactly. So when an A2 learner comes in and gives equal powerful weight to every single word, like, I am going to the store, the native speaker's brain panics.
Because there are no anchors.
There are no anchors. It doesn't know what the anchor is.
Yeah.
So that blank stare you mentioned earlier, it isn't because they didn't understand the word store. It's because the rhythm of the delivery completely scrambled their internal decoding process.
Wow. Okay, that reframes the entire process for me. The stress is essentially doing the heavy lifting for the listener's brain. It's like a map. By stressing a word, I am telling the listener, hey, this is the only thing you actually need to pay attention to.
Precisely. And the English Spark Guide is absolutely adamant that we cannot just discuss this in the abstract. Theory is useless without application.
Totally.
The source mandates the use of real-life examples and daily life situations to bridge that gap between the textbook and reality.
Which brings us to our laboratory.
Yes, the laboratory.
We need a setting that requires no complex vocabulary, something universally understood by everyone. So let's look at the morning routine.
Good choice.
It's a daily life case study that everyone listening to this has experienced today. Let's craft a baseline narrative, something you would find literally on page 1 of an A2 workbook. Just 4 sequential actions. Ready?
Let's hear it.
I wake up, I make coffee, I drink coffee, I go to work.
It is structurally flawless. Subject, verb, object. Very clean.
But listen to what happens if I deliver that data without the heat of the oven, right? If I read it exactly as a machine would process text, giving every word equal duration and pitch.
Oh, boy.
I wake up.
Huh?
I make coffee. I drink coffee. I go to work.
Yeah, that just strips all the humanity out of the room. It sounds incredibly bleak.
It sounds like a hostage tape.
It really does.
Like if a colleague asked how my morning was and I replied with that specific cadence, they would slowly back away from my desk. The vocabulary is accurate, but the communication is a total failure.
Complete failure.
So how do we rebuild this? Let's take the English Spark hacks and inject them into this sterile dialogue. Where do we start?
Well, let's start by mapping the stress. We need to tell the listener's brain where those anchors are. Remember, stress means pushing more air, making the words slightly louder, and holding the vowel sound just a bit longer.
Okay.
Let's look at the second sentence. I make coffee. What is the most critical piece of new information in that specific sequence?
Definitely the object, the coffee. I mean, it's the reason the action exists.
Right, so we don't stress the pronoun I, and we don't heavily stress the verb make. We pour our physical energy into the noun. Try saying it and physically lean into the word coffee.
Okay, let me try. I make coffee.
Do you feel the difference in your chest when you do that? The word coffee takes up slightly more physical space in the room.
I really do. I make coffee. It feels intentional. The O sound in coffee stretches out.
Well,
It's not just a passing thought, it's the main event of that sentence.
exactly. Now let's look at the third sentence in our sequence. I drink coffee. Think about the flow of information here.
Okay, we already established the coffee exists.
Yes. We established the existence of the coffee in the previous sentence. The coffee is now old news. If we stress coffee again, it sounds redundant. So what is the new vital piece of data?
The action itself.
Yeah.
The consumption.
Exactly. The focus shifts entirely to the verb, so we move the stress backward.
Okay. I drink coffee. Oh, I hear that. Let me put them together. I make coffee. I drink coffee.
You've just created a relationship between the two sentences using nothing but air and volume. The textbook grammar hasn't changed at all, but you are now actively guiding the listener's ear.
That is incredibly satisfying.
Uh-huh.
I mean, the stress alone changes it from a robotic list into an actual narrative.
Yeah.
But what about the melody? Where does the pitch come into play?
So pitch layers emotion on top of that rhythm. Let's rewind to the very first sentence. I wake up. Pitch is incredibly tied to our physical state.
Okay.
If you are someone who jumps out of bed ready to attack the day, you want to convey energy. Energy generally translates to a higher pitch on the stressed anchor. The anchor here is the direction up. So you raise the musical note of your voice on that specific word.
I wake up. Oh, wow. It literally sounds lighter. Like I'm smiling while I say it.
Right. But what if reality is much heavier? What if your alarm went off at 5 a.m., it's raining outside, and you are just deeply, deeply exhausted?
That is usually me. Yeah.
You don't change the words, you change the melody, you drop the pitch, and you elongate the stress on the struggle itself, the waking part.
I wake up.
Yes. The vocabulary is identical, the grammar is identical, yet the person listening to you receives two completely different emotional landscapes.
I wake up versus I wake up. It really is the difference between a Saturday morning and a Monday morning.
Exactly.
And this is exactly what the English Spark Guide means by human-like. Because humans are tired. Humans are excited. We communicate that through the physical vibration of our vocal cords, not just by adding the word tired to the end of a sentence.
Right. You don't say, I wake up and I am tired. You just sound tired.
And, as you are listening to this deep dive right now, just pause for a second and visualize your own morning. What are your 4 sentences? Are you turning on the shower? Are you feeding a pet? Identify the action. Find the anchor word, that most important piece of new information, and put your weight on it.
That mental exercise is honestly the first step toward breaking the textbook habit.
But if I'm navigating this transition, recognizing the theory is only the beginning. Like the cognitive leap from understanding how stress works to actually producing it fluidly in a live conversation, that's a massive gap.
It's a huge gap, yeah.
When I'm talking to a native speaker, I don't have 10 seconds to mathematically calculate which syllable gets the most air.
No, you definitely don't.
So how do we operationalize this? The English Spark Guide provides specific listening and learning features that are mandatory for their method. We need to construct a daily practice toolkit from these features so this whole pitch and stress thing becomes muscle memory.
Because the guide approaches this fundamentally as physical training. You are trying to rewire neurological pathways while simultaneously training the physical muscles in your jaw, your tongue, and your diaphragm.
Okay, so let's extract tip 1 for our toolkit. The source text explicitly highlights a technique called shadowing practice, and it uses the foundational cue, repeat after me, as a learning feature.
Shadowing is, without question, the most effective physical exercise for an adult learner trying to acquire a new rhythm.
Really? The most effective?
By far. But it is frequently implemented incorrectly. Many learners treat shadowing as a memory test. They listen to a sentence, pause the audio, and then try to repeat the sentence from memory.
Which completely defeats the purpose, right?
Yeah.
Because if you repeat it from memory, you are just going to use the pitch and stress patterns of your native language.
Exactly.
I try to explain effective shadowing by comparing it to lip syncing. Like, if you are standing in front of a mirror lip syncing to your absolute favorite song, you are not just reciting the lyrics like you are reading a grocery list.
No, you're performing.
You are adopting the artist's entire persona. You watch where they take a breath. You match the exact microsecond they hit a high note. You mimic the emotional intensity. You are literally allowing their performance to puppet your physical movements.
That is the exact mechanism. You are bypassing your own language centers and allowing the native speaker's rhythm to drive your physical output. To do this correctly as an A2 learner, you do not pause the audio.
Don't buzz it.
Right. You find a native speaker. It could be a podcast host, an actor in a scene, or, the audio tracks from the English Spark Guide, and you speak alongside them. Or at most, a fraction of a second behind them.
Like you're riding their wake.
Yes. You let them dictate the volume. If they punch the word coffee, you punch the word coffee. If their voice trails off at the end of a thought, your voice trails off. You are training your mouth to physically feel what it is like to produce English rhythm without the cognitive load of having to choose the vocabulary.
But wait, if I'm shadowing a podcast, my brain is going to be desperately trying to translate every word they are saying.
Oh, of course it is.
If I hear a word I don't know, my brain just stops, opens its mental dictionary, and tries to find the translation in my native language. And while I'm doing that, the speaker has already moved on to the next sentence, and I've lost the rhythm entirely.
That is the ultimate barrier for adult language learners. We are just obsessed with meaning, and that brings us directly to tip 2 of the practice toolkit.
Okay, what's tip 2?
The source text utilizes listening focus cues, specifically instructing the learner to listen carefully before attempting to produce sound.
But how does that solve the translation problem?
Because you have to actively untrain your brain from listening for meaning. You cannot physically produce a melody you haven't truly heard. For a few minutes every single day, you must practice active listening where you intentionally ignore the definitions of the words.
Wait, ignore the meaning. That sounds completely counterintuitive to the entire goal of learning a language. I want to know what they're saying.
I know it feels wrong. But it is a targeted exercise. Think about listening to a song in a language you don't speak at all. You can still appreciate the music, right? You can hear when the singer gets louder, you can hear the emotion, you can tap your foot to the beat, even though you have absolutely no idea what the lyrics mean.
That's true, yeah.
You need to treat English like that for 5 minutes a day. Turn on a news clip or a talk show. Close your eyes.
Yeah.
Do not try to translate the nouns or verbs. Listen purely to the frequency and the volume.
Oh, so that's how you start to hear the compression we talked about earlier.
Exactly. You will suddenly notice how fast the native speaker rushes through the words in the or at. You will hear how they land heavily on the nouns. When you strip away the anxiety of vocabulary comprehension, the underlying musical structure of English reveals itself with shocking clarity. You have to hear the song clearly before you can lip sync to it.
That makes perfect sense. It's like clearing the static off a radio station. Okay, let's move to tip 3 from our toolkit. The English Spark Guide recommends utilizing small interactive questions to keep conversational flow natural.
This is a great one.
But if I'm an A2 learner, and my primary practice space is my own apartment while I'm getting ready for work, how do I implement interactive questions without a partner?
We return to the morning routine laboratory. The act of talking to yourself is a powerful tool, but most people only use it to make declarative statements like, I am making breakfast, I'm putting on my shoes.
Which keeps you locked in that flat, downward trajectory we talked about.
Right. Declarative sentences usually end with a falling pitch. To train the full range of your vocal cords, you need to ask yourself small, low-stakes questions out loud as you move through your routine.
Like, where did I put my keys?
Exactly. Is the water hot yet? What time is it? The grammatical structure of a question in English naturally forces a rising pitch at the end of the sentence.
Where is my coffee? Oh yeah, my voice physically has to climb upward on the stressed syllable.
It is a built-in pitch exercise. By asking yourself a dozen tiny questions every morning, you are dynamically stretching your vocal range. You are practicing the exact melodic pattern you will need when you are standing in a real coffee shop asking, is this my order?
I love that.
It turns your isolated morning routine into a high-repetition training ground for natural interaction.
So if we synthesize this toolkit, we are dedicating time to listening purely to the music of the language, ignoring the dictionary entirely for 5 minutes. We are shadowing native speakers, lip-syncing their breath and energy, and we are narrating our mornings with interactive questions to force our pitch upwards.
That's the routine.
That builds an incredibly resilient foundation. But let's look at the horizon. The listener investing their time in this deep dive today, they don't want to stay at A2 forever.
Of course not.
They are looking up the mountain toward B1, B2, and eventually fluency. How does the English Spark methodology recommend scaling up from this baseline without destroying the natural rhythm we just spent all this time building?
This is the exact moment where the vast majority of dedicated learners accidentally sabotage their own progress.
They do.
Yeah, they try to sprint before they have mastered the rhythm of walking.
And the source guide anticipates this, doesn't it? It outlines what we can call the rule of gradual difficulty. The text explicitly states, start with simple vocabulary, then gradually increase difficulty. And it immediately pairs this with a very strict boundary. Avoid complex academic jargon without explanation.
Yes, that boundary is critical.
But let me stop you there, because my instinct as a learner violently disagrees with this advice.
I figure you'd say that.
I mean, if my ultimate goal is to sound intelligent, sophisticated, and fluent to my native-speaking colleagues, shouldn't my primary strategy be to deploy the most complex, high-level vocabulary I could possibly acquire? If I spend an hour memorizing the word utilize, shouldn't I immediately swap out the basic word use for utilize at every opportunity?
It is the most common trap in language acquisition. You uncover a shiny, complex word in a textbook, and you desperately want to display it to prove your proficiency.
Exactly. Look how smart I am.
But if we connect this urge back to the mechanics of pitch and stress we just broke down, using heavy jargon before you have mastered the underlying rhythm actually creates the exact opposite effect. It makes you sound far more robotic and, ironically, less fluent.
Why? Just because I'm focusing too much on the definition?
It's a physics problem. Think of the rhythm of an English sentence as a smooth, simple melody played on a piano. You have a nice, steady tempo. Suddenly, you take a massive 5-syllable academic word that you haven't physically practiced, a word you don't actually know the proper stress for, and you slam it down into the middle of the sentence like a complex, dissonant chord.
Oh, wow. It just stops the music entirely.
It shatters the rhythm. The speaker usually pauses awkwardly to retrieve the complex word from their memory, and then they deliver the word completely flat because they are so focused on articulating the consonants that they forget the pitch.
Oh, I've done that.
We all have. But the native listener doesn't hear a sophisticated speaker. They hear a broken melody. The English Spark Guide emphasizes that the objective is communication that is clear, smooth, and easy to follow. A simple sentence delivered with perfect rhythm is always perceived as more fluent than a complex sentence delivered with a shattered rhythm.
That is a harsh reality to accept. Does that mean we are permanently confined to A2 vocabulary? Am I doomed to say I make coffee and I am tired for the next 5 years?
Not at all. Growth is necessary, but it must be integrated smoothly. The source guide provides a highly effective framework for this expansion. Let's call it the natural explanation hack.
The natural explanation hack.
Okay.
The rule is explicit in the text. Any difficult word must be explained naturally in conversation.
What does that actually look like in practice? Let's take it back to the morning routine. Let's say I've shadowed successfully, my rhythm is solid, and I want to upgrade my verbs. I don't want to just make coffee anymore. I want to use a more specific intermediate word. I want to say brew. So I walk into the office and tell my colleague, I brew coffee. Brew is a fantastic step up. It's a solid B1, B2 level word in this context. It's much more descriptive. But if you just drop brew into the conversation without warning, especially if your pronunciation isn't perfectly calibrated yet, it might cause a microsecond of confusion for the listener.
Okay, so what do I do?
The natural explanation hack requires you to deploy the new, slightly heavier word, but you must immediately follow it with a safety net constructed entirely of simple A2 level words that you already execute flawlessly.
Show me the architecture of that sentence. How does that sound?
You would say, I brew coffee, making it fresh with hot water.
Oh, I brew coffee, making it fresh with hot water. That flows incredibly well.
Let's analyze why that works on multiple cognitive levels. First, you satisfy your urge to practice and deploy the upgraded vocabulary word in a live environment. You get to use brew.
Right.
Second, by immediately providing the definition, making it fresh with hot water, you guarantee that the listener understands your meaning, eliminating any potential confusion or the dreaded blank stare.
And third, from a physical perspective, you keep the music playing.
Exactly. The phrase, making it fresh, acts as a rhythmic bridge. It fills the space with a familiar, easy melody. It prevents the conversation from stalling out. More importantly, it sounds undeniably conversational.
Native speakers do that all the time.
Constantly. When they are searching for their thoughts, they use filler phrases. By mimicking this structure, you prove to the listener that you aren't just reciting a flashcard, you are fluidly navigating an idea.
It's a brilliantly simple system. You introduce the heavier brick, but you immediately build a smooth ramp right behind it so the conversation doesn't trip.
Let's test this in a few more scenarios because I really want to see how versatile this bridge is.
Let's do it.
Let's say I am arriving at the office. I want to tell my manager that my train was late, but I want to use a strong word like unavoidable or unintentional.
Perfect scenario. If you just walk in and say, my lateness was unintentional, it sounds like a legal document. It's way too rigid.
Yeah, totally.
So apply the hack, use the big word, then build the A2 bridge. Okay, I'm sorry I'm late. It was unintentional. I really didn't mean to be.
Flawless. You delivered the high-level vocabulary, but the bridge, I really didn't mean to be, softens it. It brings the pitch down to a human apologetic level.
Okay, let's try the grocery store. I want to ask an employee where the produce section is instead of just asking for fruits.
Produce can be tricky because the stress is on the first syllable for the noun, but the second syllable for the verb, like produce versus produce. It's very easy to mispronounce. Build the bridge.
Okay, excuse me, where is the produce? Where, the fresh fruits and vegetables?
You see how bulletproof that is?
Yeah, that's amazing.
Even if you stress the word produce incorrectly, the employee immediately hears fruits and vegetables and points you to the right aisle. The communication succeeds regardless of the micro error on the new word.
Let's do one more. I'm meeting a friend for dinner, but I had a terrible day. I want to scale up from, I'm very tired. I want to use the word exhausted.
Really lean into the pitch on this one. Let your voice drop.
I can't stay out late tonight. I'm absolutely exhausted. Just really, really tired.
Yes. By the time you hit the phrase really, really tired, your pitch naturally drops, conveying the exact physical emotion of exhaustion. The bridge not only clarifies the vocabulary, it gives you the runway to express the emotion organically. It is the absolute safest, most effective method for scaling your vocabulary while fiercely protecting the natural melody you've worked so hard to build.
Totally demystifies the path to fluency. Like you don't have to leap from A2 to C1 overnight. You just keep building small bridges.
Exactly. Just keep building bridges.
So let's step back and look at the massive journey we have mapped out today. We took the core methodology from the English Spark Official Guide, and we uncovered the hidden truth of language acquisition. To truly achieve human connection in an English-speaking environment, you have to stop treating language like a math problem.
You have to stop handing people a bowl of raw ingredients and expecting them to taste a cake.
You have to master the physical reality of the language. You have to leverage pitch, the high and low musicality that conveys emotion. You have to master stress, the volume and time that act as anchors, guiding the listener's brain to the most important data. We prove this by transforming a sterile robotic morning routine into a dynamic narrative just by shifting our weight on the words, I make coffee.
And we built a highly specific daily practice toolkit.
Right.
We are dedicating time to active listening, stripping away our desperate need to translate and simply allowing our ears to absorb the rhythm. We are shadowing native speakers, lip syncing not just their words, but their breath and their energy. And we are naturally stretching our pitch by asking ourselves small, interactive questions throughout the day.
And finally, when we are ready to grow, we are deploying the rule of gradual difficulty. We're using the natural explanation hack to test out complex vocabulary, immediately backing it up with a bridge of simple A2 level words to ensure the communication remains perfectly smooth and undeniably human.
It is a complete paradigm shift. You stop fighting the language and you start playing it like an instrument.
And as we close out this deep dive, I want to leave you, the listener, with one final thought to chew on. The expert and I were discussing the deeper implications of this before we started recording, and it completely shifted my perspective.
It's a really profound thought.
We spend so much time thinking about how we sound to other people, but think about what happens internally. When you spend months shadowing a native English speaker, when you meticulously train your diaphragm to push air differently, when you rewire your brain to elevate your pitch when you ask a question, when you physically adopt the rhythm and melody of a completely different culture.
You are adopting a new heartbeat.
Yes. Does changing the fundamental music of your voice actually change the way you think? We are so deeply tied to the sound of our own voice in our native language. When you finally achieve that native-like pitch and stress in English, do you start to feel like a slightly different version of yourself?
It's entirely possible.
Does adopting this new rhythm change how you interact with the world around you? It is a fascinating, slightly dizzying concept to ponder tomorrow morning. Right in that moment when you are standing in your kitchen, shifting your weight and asking the air, where is my coffee? Keep listening to the music. Keep building those bridges. You are doing fantastic.